Today, we're talking about the most recent injury updates along with roster moves for the Chicago Bulls. We're also going to be talking about final thoughts from preseason as the team prepares for their season opener. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to slam dunk on that subscribe button, just like Modest Buzelis slam dunks in games. And so in exchange for slamming on that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Chicago Bulls. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Chicago Bulls Insider family as we talk nothing but Chicago Bulls basketball. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it as we're going to start with the most recent injury updates and roster moves with the Chicago Bulls. And so starting with the injuries. And so the most recent injury that was reported for the Chicago Bulls was with Zach Collins. And so it looks like that Zach Collins is expected to at least miss 4 weeks with a fractured left wrist. And then this happened about a day or so ago with Yuki Kawamura being waived due to a medical condition. And so Casey Johnson tweeted out that the Bulls have released Yuki Kawamura, which Bulls PR confirms is due to a medical condition. Kawamura has been sidelined with right lower leg pain. And so, he was waived, and also too, he was dealing with an injury. And then next, just jumping into some of the roster moves here for the Chicago Bulls. And so McClung was signed, then he was waived, and it looks like that he's likely headed to the Windy City Bulls. And so that is one of the most recent roster moves with the Chicago Bulls. And then lastly here, the Chicago Bulls go ahead and then they sign Trentyn Flowers. And so Trentyn Flowers, he spent time with the Clippers last season, and so played with their Clippers G League team. He played in 27 games, 20 points per game, 5.1 rebounds a game, and he's just 20 years old. And so he actually takes the final two-way spot now that they went ahead and they waived Yuki Kawamura. This is the guy that played in the NBL, had a chance to go to Louisville, but decided to go over to the NBL. And I must say that, look, Trentyn Flowers, man, he looks pretty impressive in the highlights and things like that. And so got a chance to look at some of his clips where he's playing some of the summer league stuff with the Clippers and everything else. And so I think that you see just a guy that is a very athletic player and can get out into the open floor. He has a little bit of like that like point forward type of feel to him. And so very athletic player. I'm not sure if he's going to get a chance, but man, he certainly kind of fits the build of really what AK and this front office are looking for when you're talking about younger players that really might have some upside, because like I said, I mean, just a ton of athleticism, young player. And I think that length at that wing position could be something that the Bulls might want to take a look at. So Trentyn Flowers has been signed to the final two-way deal. And so next, I wanted to go ahead and jump into just the preseason wrap-up here and just kind of the final thoughts about that. It's good to see that the Bulls closed strong, and they were 3-2. And so that's great to see that they have the winning record there. And so there's some things that really stand out here. And so I think that the first thing that kind of stands out, for me is just overall, I think for this team, it's just got a different type of energy. And I just think it's an energy that's not headed towards the play-in. And I mean, that's my personal opinion here, but I just feel like that this team is very hungry. Like, it feels like the entire team has come back with something to prove. Like, I think that you see that with Dalen Terry. I think that you see that with Julian Phillips. Like, I think that Patrick Williams to some point has actually shown that too, and also to Jalen Smith. But I just think across the board, the entire team has come back with a different type of focus here. And so I think that that is certainly, one of the bigger things that I'm going to take away from preseason play. And I think it's something that this team could really lean in on, when times get tough. And I think that that's probably what would push them, into the playoffs here. And so next, the next thing I think has really, just kind of stood out here is just that the effort has been there defensively for this team. And so I know that, Billy Donovan has made this, really something that he wanted the team to focus in on. And I think that the team has really just really picked up on what he's wanted, and they're out there giving the effort. Now, is it something that is still a work in progress? Absolutely. I think that this is something that they're going to have to get better at, but it's just like the offense when he made that shift a year ago. And so I think that you're going to see that same type of thing with the defense. And so I know, the Bulls don't necessarily have, the personnel to execute it, perfectly. But, I think that at this point in time, with that effort and the energy that they're going to play with, it's just going to require that everybody's going to have to dig in just a little bit more. And you're just going to have to get some stuff from some players that traditionally haven't maybe been the greatest individual defenders, but really kind of lock into this. And I think as a team, collectively, that's how they're going to get better defensively here until they start to get, those players that can be really shut down players and things like that. And so, I think that the effort has been here. And so I think that that's really the second key takeaway. The next, look, Modest Buzelis, he's been on a tear. And so I think that Modest Buzelis is certainly ready for the season to start. I think that he's showing you that he can certainly get downhill. He's showing you that he can definitely get it done in the transition. He's so much more confident, shooting his three ball and everything else. And I've always said that his shot mechanics, they look good. And I think that it's not a shot that looks broke. It's just more so he just needed to go out there and get the confidence just with the reps and things like that. And so he's certainly going to get, the looks and stuff like that. And I think that when you add Coby White back, it actually is going to help Modest Buzelis, because I think that the defense is going to shift its attention to Coby White. And that's counting that Coby White's able to come back from this calf injury and he's able to, be solid and everything else. But even if he's not, the fact that Modest Buzelis has been playing this well this early, it really makes you think that the Bulls are in great shape here until Coby White can start to get his rhythm, because I do think that he could possibly do some of the heavy lifting here early until Coby White maybe gets into a rhythm. But again, we don't know exactly what we're going to see from Coby White, and hopefully, Vooch is able to kind of pick up off of what he did in this last preseason game. But I think that that is probably another key takeaway here, is just that Modest Buzelis is ready. And I also think too that Ayo Dosunmu is super ready. Like, I think that when you talk about like Isaac Okoro and just really him coming over and him just, helping to kind of bring that identity to the defense, like I think that Ayo Dosunmu definitely does that. And just really with his leadership and just the way that he's competing out there, this kind of goes into point number one with just the team being hungry. Like, Ayo Dosunmu has come in awfully hungry this year. And I think that, look, he's going to have a big year. I don't think that he's going to be stopped. I don't care if he's coming off the bench. I don't care if he's starting. Like, I think that Ayo Dosunmu is a player that we're going to talk about and go, man, he was locked in this season. And so can't wait to see what he's going to do. And really, I think that there's a great chance that he could start at the small forward position because, look, I love Isaac Okoro and I love the effort and everything else, but it just really wasn't necessarily the greatest preseason. I mean, he did start off well, but then it kind of just kind of tapered off a little bit. Kevin Huerter, he was hurt, and Billy Donovan did bring him off the bench. And so, look, maybe Ayo Dosunmu is the guy that starts for the team. And so wouldn't mind that. And I think that even if, you have Kevin Huerter or Isaac Okoro coming off the bench, I still think that you will get that punch. But it's something that if you go with Ayo, perhaps that's what you need to get off to the better start, which maybe helps you in the long term. And so, I mean, I think that that's something that the Bulls will have to think about. But either way, I think that him and Modest Buzelis are locked in, coming into the season. And then next, kind of circling back around to just really the injury update around Zach Collins. Like, I think that this is where you really need to see something from Jalen Smith. You need him to step up, and I think that Billy Donovan is going to have to rely on him. I also think that perhaps Lachlan Ubrick is going to have to step up here in his absence, and really, going into just not just Zach Collins and thinking about that situation, but also too, these players might have to step up if Vooch gets off to a slow start or if he does go to a decline, which I don't think that that's going to happen, especially since he did, close with the double-double. And then also too, just considering that he did play, over the summer and everything else like that. And so I'm pretty sure he was probably slowly ramping it up. And so I do think that he's going to be locked in for the season. But, if he's not, these players are going to have to be called upon, and they're going to have to step up. And so, you could possibly even throw Noah Asingay out there. Maybe he's going to have to get some key minutes as well in the front court. So anyway, you guys let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking as far as your key takeaways here. I think that, those are really some of the positives. I think that lastly, just talking about this quickly, the concerns, like I think that the team will need to get off to a better start, which is one of the reasons why I said that Ayo Dosunmu, you might want to consider starting him. And then next, they're still trying to figure out just really who that starting small forward is. And so, look, I think that, again, Ayo's in the mix. Kevin Huerter probably still is in there. And then Isaac Okoro, like all those guys are very much in the mix. We'll see what happens come the season opener here. But look, I think that this is something that Billy Donovan's going to have to think about right up until the moment. And then next, with that center position, again, I think that is going to be critical for this team because, you're going to need that rim protection. You need somebody that possibly can come in and maybe score, especially if Vooch is not playing as well. And then also, too, you're going to miss, a little bit of everything that kind of Zach Collins kind of brings here for the first couple weeks of the season. And so let's see how this team adjusts. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking as far as just your wrap up here. Then also, too, let me know what you guys are thinking as far as these injuries here. And so once again, Yuki is going to be, or he's waived. And then also, too, with Zach Collins, he's out for at least 4 weeks. McClung hasn't been official yet, but I think that he's probably headed to the Windy City Bulls. Then also, too, with Trentyn Flowers, man, he looks super athletic and a guy that looks like that maybe if the Bulls give him a chance, maybe he could be something here. And so let's see what happens with that. And so as we always say, look, go Bulls, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.